Mason ahead of the black coaches?
Well, do you know what? It's an interesting one. Like, we did discuss it in the group, and I think the consensus is that I don't think it was kind of racially. First, I don't think it's racially motivated. Like, obviously, as we were looking at Chris Powell, he's had more than 300 games as a manager. He's managed at different levels. He's got his complete coaching badges. And we're just assuming that for now, it's just an interim position. For all we know, maybe he was offered it and he chose not to. Or we actually kind of thought as well, maybe similarly, that Tottenham have taken the stance as if it's an interim guy, like before we had Tim Sherwood. And that was sort of in a position to kind of just steady the ship for now before a more permanent decision is kind of made, you know. And even though Ryan Mason, he has played for Spurs and he is young, he is like he has got the Spurs DNA in him, and he has played under Pochettino when we were playing what was like, you know, perceived as our best type of football. So I'm not against it, man. I'm not against it, and I'm not looking at like Tottenham sideways because it is just interim. Like,
it's interim, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's still a role that has come up, and the other guys, the black coaches, have more experience.
Yeah,
so,
man.
100%. If they offered it to them and they turned it down, that's one thing. But if they didn't offer it to them and they offered it to Ryan Mason ahead of them,
yeah, then obviously yes, you're looking at Spurs. You're definitely looking at Spurs sideways, like, because he's managed Charlton, Huddersfield, Southend. He's had a fairly good and a fairly decent sort of experience level, but I don't know, maybe at the top level, because he's only been a coach at youth level at Spurs for the last year or so. So
okay, all right. So basically, we've got the capital moments guys in. We got Lex and Chids, Arsenal fans. Obviously, there's a Spurs match. What's up, guys?
Yeah, what's up? As you can see, me and Lex have got our Arsenal kit right now. We're clearly telling you what our allegiance is. So we're not looking for a Tottenham win right now. So
okay, so obviously Arsenal and Spurs, both of you guys have taken a lot of hits over the last 2 days because you you guys were invited to the Super League, and a lot of people saying you shouldn't be invited. So I want to get some of your thoughts just as we're kind of warming up. What are your thoughts on this kind of whole Super League thing? Obviously, it started 2 days ago. It feels like a whirlwind. There's been so many different kind of storylines, and it's just obviously now it feels like it's at the end. But yeah, let me get some of your opinions on this Super League shit.
No, for sure. What, Chiz, do you want to go first or do you want me to go?
yeah, no, happy to go first. Then I'm going to touch upon one of the comments you just made actually about why us and Spurs were added onto it. First things first, I think we're not mates. Sorry to offend any Spurs fans. We're not mates. And I think there was actually a clip. I don't know who's seen it, where the guy was saying all the big teams and Spurs.
Yes.
So look, it's very clear where Spurs is in the pecking order. But I tell you what, just to kickstart this whole discussion on the ESL, it's got a lot of flaws. But I tell you what, as time was going on, I was becoming more in favour of it because I saw the mafia of Sky, BT Sports.
That's it.
The like, you know, Gary Neville's, your Carragher's, all of them. It felt, oh my God, they're actually fighting for their lives.
Yeah.
Because they're on big salaries in Sky, who, along with a few others, dominate the market. And they're worried that in this new world, they will not get a seat at the table. Exactly. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Touchline. I don't like you're following that account, and we almost doubled down on supporting the other side. And the reason why is the same reason why you guys like when it came down to it, I didn't like personally. This is me. This is not Touchline's opinion. This is Dan's opinion. Of course.
Oh, go on.
Ooh. What happened? Tops. What happened, bro?
Oh, Chelsea just hit wide. It should really do better, man. But sorry to interrupt you.
No, okay, cool. It's cool. So my opinion is obviously I didn't like the board. We all know, like, we've seen Glazer's CV, we've seen Kroenke's CV, but as time went on, just like you're saying, Chids, well, when I saw FIFA shaking, when I saw UEFA shaking, when I saw Sky shaking, all of them guys shaking, I was thinking, okay, the status quo can get shaken up. And 100%, I'm not just someone that, do you know, like Brexit? It was one of those ones where you can shake things up, but are you really gonna? Is the state of play at the end going to be beneficial or not? So I don't like shaking the table just for shaking the table's sake. However, I did think, okay, cool, we can actually make some changes here. So Chids, what type of things were you hoping to see if this Super League came in?
Yeah, I think let's start from first the why it's coming in the first place.
Yeah.
I think let's be clear, and this is where it got kind of like confused as the last couple of days as it's been, is they wanted to replace the Champions League, not
Yeah.
to create a league which overtakes your domestic league. It's solely the Champions League,
Yeah.
while they can still compete in their domestic leagues.
Yeah.
Of course, the people who head up a lot of the domestic leagues said, okay, if that's the case, then we're going to kick you out of our domestic leagues. And then it became this breakaway league, which would take the place of a domestic league and a Champions League. And that's where the issues are. I mean, when I'm hearing some of the comments, I was thinking, wait, you do realize that they want to be fighting in the Premier League. They don't want to come out of the Premier League.
Yeah.
They just feel like they want to create something else, like an annex of the Premier League or of a European, Super League. And that's what it is. So I think that's the confusion first that a lot of people either just didn't pick up. And so when you're saying stuff like, how could they, it doesn't make sense. Now, this is just because they've seen so many bums in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And frankly, they don't want any more bums. They just want to create top teams fighting against each other, really.
Top teams like Arsenal, yeah?
Top teams like Arsenal,
Okay, I just had to double check. But
top teams like
Arsenal are top team. Maybe not so from let me land. Maybe not so from history in Europe, but when you look at domestically, looking at trophies, Arsenal are our third highest in terms of what we've aggregated over the last few years. Obviously, we've seen recent successes from City, Chelsea. When you look at it from a historical perspective, Arsenal deserve to be called a big team.
But then, if you're talking about Arsenal doing amazingly domestically in terms of your history, it's the European Super League, which you've just said is replacing the Champions League. So surely that should be something that should be based on how you've performed in Europe for X amount of years.
100%. I think the issues and the fatality of the European Super League was its structure. So first of all, obviously, kind of Chids alluded to, was the fact the way they tried to market it, it wasn't very clear that it was just a replacement of the Champions League. People assumed that these teams would drop out of the Premier League, leave the Serie A respectively.
True, yeah.
But I think the other biggest issue is the structure of the qualification criteria. The fact that there'd be permanent seats for teams every year kind of defeats the purpose of football in a sense that it's meant to be competitive. There's meant to be some form of meritocracy so that at some point you believe you can achieve Europe. But if you've got a permanent seat, it means you can tank in your domestic season. Doesn't mean anything because, boy, I'm in the Super League next year, boys. Money's flowing in. So I don't think it's fair from that perspective.
You watch American sports, don't you?
I'm a big American sports fan. So I lived over there for like 12 months.
Oh, really?
So I can see the merits of how it works and particularly from a marketing perspective of bringing these big brands, all the excitement that comes with it. But I don't think the qualification criteria was the correct way to go about it.
The reason why I knew you as an American sports fan is because you used the word tank. We don't have that here. The reason why we don't have that here is because, do you know what I'm saying? There's relegation. So tanking isn't really a thing. But what American sports...
To be fair though, we say that, but in recent years, we have seen certain teams tank in one season to make a big comeback the next. So like with Liverpool and Chelsea in certain seasons, they haven't got into Europe. That's then freed up their midweek schedule so they can focus on the league, and they've then gone on and won Premier League. So we saw it
was it done on purpose though? The Chelsea one
I believe so to an extent where they get to a point in the season, say after January, February, they realise the stretch to make it into Europe is just going to be too taxing. Why not have a more slender schedule for the following season to try and make a proper run at the domestic title? I don't think it's as transparent as it is in America.
Yeah,
but I definitely feel like that is kind of bedded in.
Yeah, I was on a Touchline account and I was trying to explain that this is effectively a tournament. I don't think people realize that. Do you know like how the Champions League is called a league, but it's not like a traditional domestic league? This is a tournament, and the
It
layout.
was just go on.
Yeah, so the layout of the tournament, because they stipulated on the website, is 20 teams. Okay, 15 of them are permanent, and come what may, they're going to be in it. So that's 15, but another 5 teams invited, and basically out of 20 teams, they get split into 2 10-team leagues, and then the top 4 from each of those leagues qualify into a knockout rounds, and it was a cup competition. But you had people there saying it's replacing the Premier League, etc., etc. So yeah, I experienced it too. So yeah, continue, Lex. What was you going to do?
No, I was gonna say I feel for both sides, right? So I can see the angles because what they were trying to create, right, is some form of NFL where you've got this exciting domestic league campaign, league campaign from the early part of the season, from say August to December, and then you move into a knockout stage like they have in the US with their playoffs.
Yeah.
So you move into the playoffs and you get to this ultimate Super Bowl. So I know what they were trying to create. It was just the fact that they've got a permanent membership for the league, those 20 teams, or not 20 teams, should I say, the 15 teams and the 5 additional. But that doesn't work out because the way that the domestic leagues are structured in Europe, as you mentioned, it's kind of pro-reg, so you've got regulation and promotion. So it shouldn't be acceptable that Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool, City, United have these permanent seats in the Super League, no matter how they perform in the league. Like I think that was where it didn't make sense and it was ridiculous, particularly from what we've seen for performances.
A question. I've got a question, Lex. So, yes, I get where you're coming from in regards to that, and I guess in terms of competition, etc. But can you understand why they've done that? Because essentially the value. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say 100%. When you look at the recent successes of the Premier League in, say, the last 2 decades, it's been on the premise of these big teams. Not so much, say, Tottenham in the last 5 years, but like the big 4, 5, now Tottenham 6, have been the reason why you've got all these global fans from Seattle to Shanghai, from Durban to Dublin, because it's a global game. But the only thing I think is unfortunate is if you look back 20, 30 years, not all of these teams were the big 5, big 6. So why should we afford that these teams then are crystallized as the next big teams for the next 20, 30 years, just based on their position now? I don't think that's right, because I think that's what didn't make sense. That's what took away the competitive nature.
Interesting to me. I think you don't actually infiltrate. What the last 10, 15 years or so has shown me, like again, agreed with you, Tottenham are there essentially because they are the 6th biggest team in the biggest league in the world. But to actually infiltrate that group, all I can really see is that you need a billionaire owner. So this illusion of teams, by closing it off, you're stopping teams joining that group. Teams really can't join that group unless somebody comes in who's worth 5, 6 billion and decides to pump all of their personal assets into it. So I get it. I get why people are pissed off, but really it's all an illusion. And where people are saying we beat the bad guys, the good guys are supposedly Sky, who've been fleecing us for decades at this point. So my thing is, I get why people don't want it, but yeah.
No, 100%. I agree with you. I don't feel like there's a good and bad story here where Sky and BT, all the pundits are the great saviors that they're trying to be held up to be. No way in any form. I just mean in the fact they're trying to create this closed shop. And to your point, you're right. You need a billionaire to kind of break in and infiltrate this closed circle. But by creating the permanent seats, you're putting extra barriers and restrictions for people to enter into that circle. That's not really what competitive nature is. Like, so another billionaire could come and take over Leicester. Everton already have been taken over recently. They could have surpassed Tottenham in the next 5 years. We wouldn't know. But the fact.
What do we think of that though? Because
I was actually going to say about this.
We don't agree with that. Supposedly,
I don't agree with what.
As football fans, we supposedly don't agree with billionaires coming in and financially doping these clubs.
I think I've come to just get along with it. As an Arsenal fan, we've seen the worst of it, right? From the mid 2000s, we were competing with Man United, the top kind of the second biggest team in the league. Abramovich came round, then Sheikh Mansour came round, and then we were kind of relegated to say 4th, 5th. And we've probably missed out on say 3, 4 Premier League titles on the virtue of billionaire owners coming into Premier League. So if that was allowed then, I'm not going to stand against it now. Like if Everton are going to become their next big team, if Aston Villa get a big owner, West Ham get another big owner, then that's what you've got to allow to happen. But this,
Do you think that's for the good of the game? Do you think that's for the good of the game, though?
I don't think we've got a choice. Because if you look at a lot of these teams, I think we make the assumption that it's only the Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, Man Cities, Liverpool that have billionaire owners. When you actually think about it, Aston Villa, billionaire owner. These are
Even
clubs you wouldn't
Leicester,
think.
yeah.
Crystal
Leicester's
Palace,
even Leeds.
they all have billionaire owners. So actually, what we're already seeing is a league full of billionaire owners. I'm sure even when you look at Southampton, billionaire owner. If I'm not mistaken, West Brom just got recently, was it a billionaire owner as well? So all of these clubs all have billionaire owners, and so it is a it's a billionaire playing ground. And what we're now seeing is that the statuses of some of these clubs are much bigger than others. And while I don't agree with the fact that in perpetuity you have clubs who are founding members of a new league and rain, sleet, snow, or shine, they'll be there. I don't agree with that. But I do think, and this is something which I think they should have thought about, is for a fixed period of time, it will be sticky. So there will be fixed in this new league. Because remember, they're putting up the financing for this new league, creating all the infrastructure, whatever. So it could have been for a period of, I don't know, 10 years where these founding teams stay there. Then after that period, there's a free float. And by then, they would have either got all the necessary receipts so that they're not just paying into repaying a debt, they're actually making money as well. Then after 10 years, it's like, yeah, Arsenal, if you get relegated from that ESL, that's your business.
But
Tottenham, if you get
ask, did they ever specify what the duration of those founder members staying in the league was?
No, because there was
They did from a finance perspective. So the initial funding from JP Morgan was for a 23-year revolving facility. So it was going to be minimum 23 years.
But
does that suggest that those
financing though?
Not exactly. Does that suggest that carries over into the playing?
But that would have been in agreement with those founding clubs, so it wouldn't be where they could renege on the deal. It wouldn't be unless they went into a bilateral agreement for a club to replace them. But that would go into extra legal ramifications, etc. So, keeping it simplistic, you'd assume those permanent members would stay for the initial formation period.
Yeah, but then
that's a bit I disagree with though. Founding suggests that it will be for a fixed period, as any of these sort of new startup companies or whatever, like these products that sort of don't have the actual money to spend to mass produce these items. They have that period of exclusivity. People buy in, they get incentives, and then once the ball is rolling, once the brand is strong enough, then they start to sort of mass produce, sell it to everybody, and everyone can get a share of it. That's how I interpret it.
Yeah, but again, that's I won't lie to you, that's a big leap to interpret that based on the statements that are provided. I feel like if they market it as such as that, then I definitely feel like that could have been sold in that way. Because you got to remember, this was, again, I think UEFA, FIFA leaked it early to get kind of ahead of the concept. But if they did this in a more improved way in terms of the marketing, partnering with, say, a broadcaster to say, exactly, if the communications were improved and said, look, we've partnered with XY broadcaster, they're our partner. In the long term, this is the vision for it. But they weren't very clear. And it was like, once the story broke, it wasn't like they tried to
was atrocious, man. Yeah,
there was definitely a lack of clarity. But at the same time, it's like, if you take all components, the fact that it is clearly pitched as a replacement for the Champions League, like the Champions League's success over the last couple of decades have been those moments where you get a smaller team sort of overperform. That increases the profile of both the competition and the club itself. And if, for example, we take Spurs, as I am a Spurs man, it's like we've sort of earned our way slowly at that seat without basically justifying it with silverware. So it shows that the brand of these clubs is just as important as the accolades. That is a very plausible thing to happen with a Leicester, or maybe not Everton, but those sort of outlier teams in the Premier League who can do the one-off and have a good season. So it will be in the ESL's best interest to consider that in the future planning.
Yeah, but I think I don't think it was clear that this was a replacement for the Champions League. I 100% saw people saying this is
Yeah.
the replacement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, man.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
I can't lie, sorry to hop in. I think it was clear,
Are you
but
sorry?
I feel like the other side tried to like blur the lines, if you get what I mean.
This is
to like
what
try and push
I
the
agree,
agenda.
Babs. I agree.
I
With
feel
Babs.
like, I feel like that's
it was clear.
exactly what happened, and
That's
it was
exactly what happened.
genius. I can't lie, it was genius.
That's
Because
exactly
I would
what
have done the
happened.
exact same
I
type
think
of
it was
shit.
clear.
It was clear. It was clear.
That's exactly what I would have done.
What made it ambiguous is when they said, "Fine, we're kicking you out the domestic leagues," and then suddenly these clubs were struggling to find out what does that then mean. Are they being kicked out of existing competitions right now? Because there was even a few statements that all the teams currently in Champions League will be kicked out because of the fact that they've now gone and joined the ESL. So that made it seem like, oh, they're now going off to do their own thing. When no, it was clear from the beginning it was only to replace the Champions League.
No, 100%. It was a massive game of poker, and the ESL folded first. That's essentially what happened.
Any Chelsea fans here?
Yeah, I'm a Chelsea fan, and so is Babs.
I don't know. You guys fumbled first.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but
We didn't need the money, innit?
We're the same for football now.
So why
Nah,
did you
you
sign
know,
up then if you didn't need the money?
Imagine
It's
if
called
Arsenal
elitism,
fumbled
innit?
Go on,
I
Jim.
don't know. It wasn't. I don't know if it was money to some extent. Yeah, Chelsea and Man City didn't necessarily need the money. Obviously, they're self-funded. You guys were the ones that mostly had kind of shaky feet, and given the fact that you're kind of westernized to some degree, you've got American owners of Arsenal, United, Liverpool. They're closest to the NFL, NBA models. So I feel like it made sense for you guys to pull out first anyway.
I don't know if you know, but Chelsea's chairman is Bruce Buck, and he's American. And I feel like that's how they got to Chelsea, because I feel like he was solely responsible for Chelsea being.
They probably got through him, but at the same extent, I won't lie to you. Like over the course of Abramovich's tenure, you guys are a big club in England. So for them to leave you out, because it was one of those ones, they probably Arsenal were always going to be part of it because it's Dan.
Yeah.
United and Liverpool definitely, because they even thought of the original project Big Picture back in like October.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea had to be part of it, and it was like, okay, City are going to win the league. We have to include them. I don't know how Dan Levy swindled his way in, but he's always been good at negotiating.
Why are you trying to dunk on Tottenham? I don't think you understand. This is a Spurs.
I'm gonna ask that.
We got Spurs
candidly.
Okay.
I know you guys have had a great few years in Europe in terms of your runs, getting to the final, beating City on the way there. Obviously, new stadiums giving you guys a lot of clout as well.
You say great 3 years. It was 1 year, bro. 1 year.
100%, bro. I tried to give them a bit more.
Crazy. Right.
But why do you think you guys were included as part of the concept?
Money.
Yeah,
I think it's money. I think it's personally. I'm not sure if Sai and Tops may have a different view, but me personally, I think it's money. I've profiled on the European stage in recent years because we've had the consistent. We've been in the Champions League consistently, and obviously outside of this season, we've made the knockouts for like 3 years in the trot, and in one of those years, we made it to the final as well. So I think money and of course
increase in profile
on the European stage.
Interesting. I think just benefit from being in the biggest league in the world, to be honest with you, with the most eyes on it. And hence why you see so many of the biggest percentage of the teams that make up the founders come from the Premier League. And when you say money, let me finish. And when you say money, can you elaborate a bit more? Because you just kept saying money again and again. What exactly do you mean?
For fuck's sake, there you go. We're fucking losing, man. Oh,
yeah, there you go, money.
Oh, fucking head top, man.
Spursy, man, bow.
Yeah, man.
Fam, some things just never change.
Can somebody take over from So Tob said money. What exactly do you guys mean when you say money?
Yeah, we're the 10th richest team in the world, and if you look at our revenue over the last couple of years, we're becoming a more and more valuable club. And then the stadium.
Harold. We have capital moments on it. It's not that sort of Discord, yeah. Please have some decorum, brother.
No. You know what? It's still the same.
and then of course you chuck the stadium on top, so that then adds that extra layer as well. So that's what I mean by money.
Man said decorum. Who's that, bro?
You know who it is, man.
Come on.
Okay, let me ask a question, right? In terms of Champions League prize money, I think the finalists. I remember I read this like last year. Finalists get only like 15 million, 15 to 20 million max, and I'm sure we make more money from being promoted and relegated, in our domestic leagues. Do you think that's part of the reasons why, again, a lot of these clubs said, you know what, there's not enough money in the Champions League. Doesn't even make. We'll call it champions, but you don't even get most money. You'd rather be in the Premier League. You'd rather be promoted actually than be a Champions League finalist in terms of money. Like my question is, do you understand why? Based on that.
100%. This is why UEFA are crooks, because they're giving prize money and pocketing the rest. We're no fools. We know how much interest the Champions League is, but at the same time, even with the current interest of the Champions League, it can be way bigger. And I think that's the reason why there was like, you guys aren't doing it properly. From the prize money to the fact that it isn't competing on the level of American sports, etc. And so I understand. I understand all of that. The only thing I couldn't get with was the people behind it. Like, how do you trust Kroenke? How do you trust the Glazers? I can't.
Okay, yeah, I get you. And what about then the arguments on the fact that you see a lot of these existing broadcasters saying we're doing this for the fans, this is against all the fans and what they want, when in reality it's like, hold on, pay-per-view during the pandemic. In fact, Gary Neville, I'm going to go back to him actually. 1992, Gary Neville started his career, right? He was part of the 1992-93 boys. That was the first year in which the Premier League started. So he doesn't actually know what a first division player is like, because he joined when it was being commercialized. So I kind of found it a bit rich coming from him that he joined at a time where the Premier League was being commercialized. You've got broadcasting, you've got commercial. In fact, every season we're talking about how, spend the money. If you want to be top of the league, you got to spend 100 million pounds on a centre forward. You got to spend 70 million on a centre back. I mean, where's this money really going to come from if we're simply just relying on gate receipts from match day revenues? It just doesn't work, and hence why I would say that I think things have got a bit stale in football actually, and that this was another way in which they can conjure up some obviously not well thought of idea, but something that can take it to the next level. Because looking at 92, they were taking it to the next level, and now arguably you can say we're probably reaching a saturation point where how else are you going to grow money? Are you going to increase match day tickets? Are you going to find another way in which you can make BT Sports and the Sky battle it out for for contracts over the next few years? Like, what else are you going to do to really take it to a new level? And I'm struggling to see it right now, because these top 6 clubs, I can't lie, I said, am I really watching teams not in the top 6? So never mind they're not playing each other, but more time now, I'm watching a game, it will have Tottenham in it. It will have Man United in it. It will have Man City in it. It will have Arsenal in it. It would have Liverpool in it. But bar that, if it's just 2 teams mid-table battling it out,
let me ask you this question.
I'm not that pressed.
Would you watch? I know obviously you're an Arsenal supporter. Would you watch the Spurs Southampton game?
I'll watch Spurs. I won't lie to you. I don't mind. I'll watch it.
So would you be watching this game today if you was free?
I'll watch
You know what? Yeah, I don't know. Pre lockdown, I don't think so. But obviously, sorry, pre-COVID, but now post-COVID, obviously there's so much football on, 100%. But this game typically would be on I don't know, it wouldn't be on a Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think I'd go out my way to watch it.
I think that's where the hypocrisy spills over for me. It's like, obviously, as a Spurs fan, the first however many years in the Premier League, you're like, oh man, maybe we can break into that top 4. The top 4 didn't just mean the teams that finish the 4 top places. It meant the 4 biggest teams, right? So as time went on and we started to break into it, they shifted it to top 6. When realistically, the top 6 aren't fighting for the same shit a lot of the time. By midway point in the season, you know who the top 4 teams are going to be. And then other managers trying to get into, Europa League. So I think it's rich coming from them when they've created this facade and this aura around the 6 richest teams in the Premier League. That now that they're trying to be compensated for the value they bring, they're like, oh, these teams are all villains. It's like, fuck off, you've earned millions, billions of pounds off the back of these lot, and now you're trying to villainize your cash cow. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, it was also interesting to see the fact that on mainstream television, I struggled to see anyone who was for the ESL. It all felt like everyone was mic'd up, say this, do that. We can't let this happen, and that was more concerning to me actually, because
Yeah,
it
but
was
then
like
it goes back to like that old age English quote. It's like turkeys waiting for Christmas. Like why would all of these broadcasters who haven't been heavily involved in the negotiations all be for it? Because they don't like Sky and BT. They don't know where their bag's coming from. They'll be like, wait a minute. If these guys disappear, the value of our product diminishes overnight, and we're not certain to be involved in the TV rights for the Super League. So I think it was those guys just saving their asses.
Yeah, I completely agree with them actually, because I would do the same. It's just when you have your spokesmen talking as if they're talking from a place of integrity, it's like, no, don't do that. We know why you're doing it. You know, you're on £1 million a year, like with Sky. It's fine. Just say you're doing it, or don't question other people's integrity when we know that your employers are now sweating. They're scared that they can lose out massively.
100%, man.
Because I think it was Gary Neville mentioning Klopp and how much of an integral part he is in Liverpool, and his integrity is up there and all of that. And I looked at Klopp's post-match interview, and I was like, do you know what? I even respect Klopp more, because he was like, look, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Just leave me alone. Like, don't speak for me, because a lot of them were actually speaking for him. They were trying to make him a martyr.
That's what I
because
hate about that.
I tell you what, I tell you what they wanted is, if this actually continued on, they were waiting for Klopp to resign for them to say, you see what you've done. Klopp has resigned as a result. They were talking for him, and I was like, let the man speak. They were doing too much. They wanted him to resign and create more of a fracas on this whole
Gary Neville
issue.
was moving like Tony Blair, fam. He was moving like he's trying to run for MP.
Fam, he was like trying to incite a mini riot, when he was saying, "Oh, everyone, we should all come together." When it's racism, they're not saying too much, do they? Henderson getting all the captains together and all of that stuff. I mean, yeah, I think this was, I was a bit disappointed. Let's just say anyway, but again, not surprised.
No, for sure. Where do you guys think it goes from here? Do you think there's some life in it?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. So a couple of people were saying 100%. There was no counter narrative, which was disappointing. But yeah, I feel like, from what I understand, currently left. Do you know how everyone was falling like dominoes? I think currently left is Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Juventus. They still haven't officially left. Unless something's changed, those are the 3 that I've left. They said they're gonna go back and try to redraw and try to come up with something more favorable. But the stink is on it now. Like the stink is on the Super League. I don't think John Henry would want to touch that project with a barge pole. The Glazers have all come out. They've said their apologies. So unfortunately, I don't think those guys can do anything. But do you know, like how, like with politics, you have an opposition, and the opposition is there specifically to make sure that the main party are doing their job. I feel like for too long, UEFA got away with just doing nothing. And I feel like at least what this has done is it created an opposition, and they sold what a future could be. So we've all seen that UEFA has this Swiss model plan, and apparently they've taken out 6 billion or whatever to remodel the Champions League, which is a good thing. Like, if I was to rewind it, like even if you care for football, the fact that UEFA are waking up saying, okay, we can't rest on our laurels and we've got to create a better competition, for me, that's a good thing. The thing is, their new proposal is almost very similar to what Perez and them guys were saying, because there is a kind of like legacy thing where maybe West Ham finishes above Man United, but Man United still goes to the Champions League based on the past 3 or 4 years. So it's interesting now because I feel like the people feel like they have power, and I feel like they're gonna fight to have it their way. But then you just don't know. Is UEFA gonna kind of cave? I don't know. I don't know. That's my kind of understanding of the current situation.
It's
No,
politics.
definitely interesting. I think it hasn't got life in it in its current form, but what you see a lot in politics is over policies. They just get reinvented under a different name, a different form, and they can still come back. And we've seen it over the past year, right? A lot of initial Labour policies that were being thought of as concepts like 2, 3 years ago, they're now being implemented under the Conservative government just because we're at a different space, COVID, etc. So who knows, 10, 20 years, who knows what dire straits the world of football might be in, that this is a solution.
So wait, Lex, because you was talking about you watch American football, right? Or you watch American sports?
Yeah, 100. NFL and NBA.
NFL and NBA. So in comparison, what do you feel like those sports have? Because from what we can see, it's the American guys that try to Americanize European sport. So do you think there's any good things that we can take from your
I
opinion?
think the only benefit is the fact that they were trying to create this closed shop wasn't right. So I think the value of at least the NFL is there's obviously all these different billionaire owners, but given that there's the draft in any year or over a few years, any team can actually have a viable chance of winning the Super Bowl. But a lot of it is mixed with the shared kind of distribution of talent. It's a lot easier to distribute talent across the league, as well as the fact that their playoffs are a one-leg knockout format. So back in the day, when obviously everyone says Arsenal were this big club without any European trophies, or big European trophies being the European Cup. But like before the Champions League, there wasn't as many of these two-leg knockout phases. It was literally one leg, you're out. So when you've got a lot of those type of games, there's a lot more unpredictability, which actually incites fans to more upsets, to more excitement. So I think the league, from that perspective, the entertainment value, they've done a great job. And obviously, with anything that's an American product, the marketing is always going to be on point. Advertising, how they shape and sell the product to the end customer is always going to be different. And I think that's where obviously the Super League could have really stretched the European market and the European football industry.
Yeah. So are you glad? I know you kind of at the beginning, for those that wasn't here, you said that at first you was against it, and then when Neville started speaking, I feel like this is a similar experience for a lot of people. When Neville started speaking, etc., then that kind of made you wanted to see like the table shaken.
You know
So,
what it
like,
is? I was actually for it, except for the whole qualification criteria. So I was proper excited to be like, oh wow, like it'll be like the NFL when you've got like every Sunday you've got these massive games. Like how back in the day you'd be like, oh my gosh, El Clasico's 2 weeks, and then you got the Milan Derby, and you've got this. But then imagine like Milan are playing Arsenal, Barcelona playing United. Like that would literally be every weekend. And some people are like, oh, you're gonna get bored of those games. It's better when they only happen rarely. But it's like, why would I be bored of seeing top quality players play every weekend? Like, I was really excited about that.
Yeah.
It was just the qualification criteria, because it doesn't necessarily guarantee that the biggest clubs are always going to have the best ballers. Because if they don't finish top 6, top 7, wherever it might be, then surely they don't have the best players, or they don't obviously have the best team. So it would have been exciting to see big games every week, rather than having to now, because like some of what Perez said is right. He's like, yeah, most people don't really tune into the Champions League until the knockout phases. Like, it doesn't get interesting until February, March. Like the game we saw, Bayern PSG. Obviously they didn't agree to join the Super League, but the quality of that football, imagine that was every week from August to May. Like, why would you want to turn that down?
Yeah, ironically, those are the two clubs that definitely won't be in it. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But
I want to flip the question to you guys actually, on the future of the game, because I think Perez mentioned, or someone definitely mentioned, that is it 16 to 24-year-olds aren't as passionate about football. And I'm sure we can all agree that when we were growing up, we were playing football, whether it's your estate or your local park or some pitches. And I don't know, I just don't see that same passion for the game anymore when I look at young people nowadays. So should we be concerned for the future of the game?
100%, because there's a lot more to compete with. I work in app development, and every single app is about keeping you on the app, keeping you on the app. Like we didn't necessarily have that, and plus with the fear of your children going out, that's one of the reasons. And all of this kind of no ball games, we know people aren't playing football as much. But plus inside, when we was growing up, sending you to a room was still a punishment. It's not like that now. So, and then you've got TikTok. People like kids spend the time on TikTok, WhatsApp, talking to their friends. Obviously, football is football, isn't it? It's sport, so it's deeply ingrained. But you can't just kind of leave it because it can be one of those things where people just aren't as interested. I think what Perez said is that 16 to 24-year-olds, maybe in Spain, maybe it's a Spanish thing because maybe Spanish football isn't as engaging. I don't hang around with 16 to 24-year-olds. I don't know if it's down. I'm not taking the surveys. However, I do know that there's a lot more to compete with at this point. I think Championship Manager or Football Manager, that was a lot more like, I swear everyone was talking about that when I was growing up. Everyone was talking about FIFA. I know like FIFA Ultimate Team's a thing, but I just feel like it's down. Like if you're talking about the feeling, I do feel like it's down. Even though it's not empty, I do feel like football isn't as like, even when I think about our generation, a lot of people are saying the game's gone or it's not as exciting as, you know, when it was. If you're a Chelsea fan, you still kind of like the old Chelsea. If you're a United fan, you like the old United. If you're an Arsenal fan, you like the old Arsenal. I think maybe Liverpool, Spurs, and Man City, but there are no Man City fans really. They're the only clubs that like are probably enjoying this era more. And I feel like if the biggest clubs' fans aren't enjoying it as much, then that's a problem. Do you know what I'm saying?
But is that, are we looking at it from a biased view to that extent, saying, "Oh, the biggest clubs fan"?
Maybe,
the smaller boys, maybe the small West Ham are probably living it right now. They're like, "Yo, we got a big stadium."
That's not a majority audience, though. This is what you're asking me. Do the majority of people support West Ham? No. So if West Ham are enjoying it, that means that across football, people are enjoying it less. If you can see what I'm saying. Now, I'm not.
No. I think it's broader than just the club story. I feel like you're right to some extent with the style of play that we're seeing now. There isn't like the counter-attacking flair football that we would see 10, 15 years ago. Now it seems a lot more tactically focused, structured, organized. Like Pep, he's a great manager, has had great successes, but sometimes watching his teams, there's no excitement. It's just like, you know what they're going to do, you know what they're trying to attempt to do. You're not excited by the journey per se. Whereas some of the teams previously, there was that excitement. And I think you're right with the journey we went on as kids. Is we used to play outside, what we watched on TV. You wanted to watch Champions League, it was on ITV midweek.
Access.
Exactly.
I'm glad you raised that actually. There wasn't a paywall. Now it's
now
like
there's a severe paywall. So to some extent, it's like, oh, is it only for a certain?
Let's not lie though. There was a paywall. Sky Sports was around when we was kids. It was Champions League was on ITV, but Sky Sports was still around. And
it's still around, also, definitely.
Yeah, and also just the kind of what do they call it? Basically, to take away nostalgia bias, there were so many games back in the day where it was boring. It was boring. I would play outside, come in, watch a little bit of the match, and go back outside because it was boring. So let's not just act like football back then was amazing. Like, yeah, there were games against Man United, Arsenal, good. Do you know what I'm saying? But
no, facts. I can't lie.
I don't know. I hear what you're saying. But there was dead teams. There's dead teams every year. But I don't know, like flair teams. I mean, in the sense of maybe I'm not watching the smaller boys too much anymore. But there was like some of the smaller teams were still top. Like when growing up, like the Newcastle United team with Shearer, Laurent Blanc. Like these teams were dope. Fam.
We got Leeds today. Do you know what I'm saying? I know Leeds aren't Newcastle level, but look at what Leicester are doing. So for them having Newcastle back today, we got Leicester today. We got Everton. Do you know what I'm saying? We got so many big teams today. I don't think that the Premier League has been.
I do think we do have that.
I don't think the Premier League's regressed. Yeah, I don't think the Premier League's regressed. We've got stronger teams. Football anyhow can't regress because obviously you get stronger athletes, you get more tactically astute managers. Like football's always going to improve over time. Obviously, the marginal improvements will probably reduce the year on year.
I can't lie. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one. You know, football has regressed, especially in the last 2 years.
No. I mean, no way. I mean, in terms of the quality of the average footballer. There's no.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I'm not talking about 2 years ago because that's way too much of a short timeline to really compare to. I'm talking about 10, 20 years ago. The average footballer is technically better, is more physically fit, understands tactics a lot better. Like, there's no way you're going to tell me the average footballer playing for a mid-table team in 2005 is as good as it is now. Like, no way.
Look,
Yeah,
listen,
yeah. I
let me-
think, but I think we could still make the point though, because I mean, 10 years ago we had Adebayor still in our team, so that's a long time
No,
ago.
but
I'm
that's
talking
what I
about.
mean. It's the myopic view of just our club. I mean football in general, like the average baller.
Yeah, I
have you guys
mean,
watched?
I don't think they're that techie these days, man. I won't
Have you,
lie. I don't.
ha-
I don't think Flair was.
Chids, have you watched
Yeah.
the gate? Like, have you watched like maybe a couple of games from like 10 years ago, just on a random?
Yeah.
You have, like, so
Yeah, I have.
like, I'm talking. So what type of games have you watched?
I've watched the Man City Arsenal game when Adebayor done a mad thing to us where he was running on the other side of the pitch when he scored the header and then ran on the other side of the pitch to celebrate
You
against our
watched the full
fans.
90 minutes.
Yeah, I've watched some full 90 minutes. I won't lie to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
And I've watched that Arsenal Man United game that still pisses me off when what's that referee, the skinny one? Is it Riley? When
Yeah.
Reyes was
Mark
getting
Riley.
tackled. Yeah, when Reyes was getting tackled left, right, and centre, and Gary Neville. I mentioned Gary Neville bare times today. He must have pissed me off this morning. Where he there wasn't getting yellow cards. I've watched that.
And so, what do you think in terms of just from that? Obviously, it's a small sample size.
Yeah.
But are you seeing more technique? Are you seeing a better game?
I tell you what, I when I look back now, I say there was a lot of space. There was a lot of space. The type of space where you'll criticize today, where you're like, you're giving them too much space. So I do, like, when I look back now, I agree that there are elements where it's like, oh, was that how, I won't say basic. I mean, you talk about even going back, your Siemens era, your Invincibles, pre that, you look at it and you think, this game looks basic. So I agree that the standard has improved. The entertainment factor, that's another point, because with the limited space, or if everyone's kind of closing in and kind of canceling each other out, the entertainment factor is lost. But I still think I can say that while things were peaking, that I do think the last 2 or 3, I mean, the type of players that were saying top quality, I'm kind of like, is it because we're just starving of top players? That's what it is.
Maybe it's because, and this kind of links back to the kind of whole Super League thing. It's maybe because a lot more teams have money, therefore the concentrate of quality isn't in the top half of the table, and it's more across. And I think you kind of referenced the tactics is better too. But yeah, like 100%, like it was so much easier to just take the best players off of the smaller clubs back then. Maybe an Arsenal will be better if, you know what I'm saying, if you could take all of the best players, then you'd be better, but you can't do that anymore. So I do feel like maybe we've got less super teams that is filled with quality because it's just harder to take players. And then if we had the Super League where all of these big teams had more money, then it becomes easier to get players again because there's that gap. And so like Everton can't look down on just 120 million bids, and then they have to sell. Do you know what I'm saying? And then maybe you get super teams again.
Yeah, but would you also not agree that there's actually a lack of quality, like literally? Because if you think about centre forward, right, the names that you put in that list are Mbappe, Haaland. That seems to be the only two names.
Lewandowski, Kane.
I mean, Lewandowski's even, he's reached that peak level. I mean, okay, Kane, fair enough.
Lewandowski too. Lewandowski slaps goals. He slaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's add Lewandowski to it. But again, I'll go back and say the ones we're excited about. I mean, Lewandowski's been doing his thing. Kane now is what, 27, 28, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the ones which are quote unquote your foot managers, your wonder kids, the ones which are on their way up to be
okay. So
like world
Mbappe
class.
and Haaland.
That's it. Why are they the only two?
But
we're starving.
I remember.
I think there's more, yeah, but I feel like you have to
There's
probably
more
watch
to it than
football
that,
a
though.
lot more.
Yeah, let me just quickly say before you go, Babs, and then Sai. But I remember back in the day, it was Pato and it was Aguero. That's what everyone was talking about when they was coming through. There was obviously Balotelli, people saying like, but it was the top two at that point was Pato and Aguero. Now,
but that was a Rooney era.
Huh?
Rooney was doing his thing then.
Rooney's older because don't forget Aguero's
Rooney
like,
was from 04.
yeah, no. But okay, so Rooney's retired already. Aguero's still playing, right? So can you see
Right.
what I'm saying in terms of
Yeah.
Rooney's a bit older, right? So like I remember, I'm talking about that Pato Aguero era.
That
I remember,
yeah, that era, yeah.
because I watched worldwide football. At that point, I was looking at all the South American talent, and I was just looking for strikers, and it was Pato and Aguero was the ones that everybody loved, but then Suarez, which most people didn't know about, Carlos Vela, most people didn't know about, and Alexis Sanchez. But everyone was just talking about at that point, and then maybe Balotelli as well, and then Sturridge. But I feel like every single generation, you're only going to get 2 or 3. The problem is what people do with nostalgia is you can kind of compact 10 years worth of player and compare it against what we have right now, which is unfair. But I feel like it's okay to have Mbappe and to have Haaland. That's good. You know what I'm saying? Those are the 2 leaders, but there's other talents out there, and you'll see it 10 years later. It won't just be Mbappe and Haaland. There'll be other people in that kind of generation as well. But it's because you have to wait for knowledge to catch up because these guys are still super young. That's the way I see it anyway.
But centre forwards, though, don't you agree though that nowadays no one wants to be a centre forward? They want to be the one supplying the centre forward. Before we all want to be strikers.
I'd compare that to bigs in the NBA. Like at one point, the bigs were the position that all of the teams would draft number 1 or number 2, whereas nowadays everyone's looking for guards or small forwards, right? In football now, you've got wide forwards who score the majority of goals for teams, and teams build their whole tactical structure around wide players who can cut inside and smash goals. So it's just the natural progression of the game is now more focused on scoring from wide areas in the centre forward. So I think eventually that will change. Obviously, with Mbappe and Haaland in the 4, naturally kids will grow up and be like, "Oh, I want to play their position," as opposed to all of this generation that wanted to be like Ronaldo or Messi.
And Thierry Henry, when Thierry Henry came through and was cutting in from the left, that redefined what a striker was. Everybody started.
I don't know. No, I hear you. Yeah, Henry changed the game in his own respect, but I don't think he changed it for his peer group. Like,
no, I didn't say for his peer group. I said
but I mean, even sorry, not for his peer group. I even think for the next phase. I don't think he was the guy that influenced, say, people like Salah, Mane.
But no, I wasn't necessarily jumping to them. I was going to mention Ryan Babel, Martial, like all of even Walcott. You started to see Sturridge. A lot of these players will tell you Thierry Henry was their guy, and that kind of.
I can agree. Yeah, I can agree with that aspect in the sense of he inspired a generation of ballers, but not the elite ballers per se. Because I think the earlier point that someone made was like comparing it to the NBA. The fact that guards are so kind of treasured now is Steph Curry won MVPs and he revolutionized the game. Football. Messi and Ronaldo were coming in wide, smashing goals. So it was the elite ballers that changed the game for everyone else. So to that degree, we're going to have to see elite, as you mentioned, Mbappe, Haaland, do a madness in that centre forward position to then revolutionise the game all over again.
But even Mbappe was inspired.
Was a wide, yeah. Well. You could really call him still a wide forward, but he has started to excel in that centre forward position, like in recent games. Obviously, the Bayern games, he was out of this world.
Babs, you was going to say something before I cut you off.
No, you guys have said. I was just going to say that the game changes so quickly that, like as I said, the positions that people seek out is just constantly changing. And yeah, that's literally it. And even with the young players thing, I feel like with it, like you have debate players like the Mbappes and the Haalands, but I feel like unless you're like watching a load of games, you won't really have the ears to the streets to like see who's actually coming up and like, who's actually coming up. It's like that 16 to 18 bracket, because there's like probably loads of players that we don't know about that are slapping, but yeah, you'll probably.
Do you think there's a lack of knowledge about the younger players coming up though? Because as everyone's mentioned, you've got the FIFAs, you've got the football managers that are flourishing.
I don't think. Let me just quickly on it. I don't think there's a lack of knowledge, but until these guys do it at a top level, people don't give them their respect. It's like Neymar was coming through until he moved to Barcelona. People don't give him his respect. Suarez was slapping in at Ajax until he moved to Liverpool. People weren't giving him his respect. So there are loads of players like a Dakar right now. Until they move to another team, people aren't going to give them a respect because of a Werner, where Werner's slapping in Leipzig, then he comes to Chelsea and he flops. So I think people are just hesitant until they make it to the big teams to add them to, okay, cool. Now you're respected.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, Dan, because I think there's a few young strikers around or like wide forwards around who are putting up respectable numbers, and it just takes one club to actually take the punt on them, like as you said, Liverpool did with Suarez, and then you see his quality in the Premier League. Like I think there's a few names around like Daniel Marlon, Alexander Isak, and all of these guys who are doing their thing, but it's going under the radar. And then as soon as say a top six club or even a Prem team comes in for them, and then they start banging, then people will be like, oh yeah, this guy's 30. Because I think Lewandowski, he was linked to I can't remember, he was linked to like one mid-table Prem team before he went to Dortmund, didn't it? And
I think it was Blackburn. It was Blackburn.
Yeah. And it's like, if it like you don't, it just takes like the right career move for some of these guys to actually show their credentials. Because I don't think even Lewandowski, when he first went to Dortmund, I remember we played them in the Champions League, and he didn't look all that kind of thing to me, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't know about this guy. But then when you see his goal record for Dortmund, and then when he moves to Bayern, then obviously everyone's like, oh, he's certain. He's almost like a late bloomer. And I think with strikers as well, it's rarer that they bang early. They normally start hitting the proper numbers, like 24 plus. So it's definitely one to watch.
Yeah, like João Felix right now. If we remember when João Felix was coming through, he slapped 19 in Benfica. He made these moves to a bigger club. It's difficult to make that move because like, I remember when Aguero was coming through, he was slapping in Argentina. He made the move to Atletico Madrid. Check his stats because I know it's a stats generation. The first season he didn't score like that, and then it picked up. And João Felix can pick up. João Felix can score, like, especially if he moves away from Atletico Madrid. He can be another one that you can put alongside Mbappe and Haaland. But I do feel like people are so harsh when they're like, there's not enough quality because they compare it to a whole decade's worth and they're just looking at now. I definitely think when you have, don't forget, the past decade, there were two outliers in Ronaldo and Messi. So to have Mbappe and Haaland isn't a bad thing. Do you know what I'm saying? It just kind of follows the trend of having two outliers.
I hear
You made an interesting point about the stats generation because obviously you guys were talking about when. Oh, sorry, my daughter's making noise. When Perez was talking about the statistic of 16 to 24s, maybe not consuming the games as much as we did when we were younger. People don't have to because there's more ways to consume football. You can watch highlights, you can just look at the statistics, and you can basically just get all the information you want. And to an extent, I think what's happened is you have more people that fancy themselves as experts of football than casual fans. Casual fans tune into the big games. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but sorry, go on.
So with like casual fans, they're going to tune into the big marquee games, whereas the people that fancy themselves experts, they might not tune into the games in real time, but they'll know the statistics, they'll know their XG, they'll know what players' sort of running metrics are and all of this stuff, so that they can keep an eye on players, map their trajectory and stuff like that without necessarily having to watch 90 minutes of football. Like we all make the joke about compilation players. That's a real thing. It's a cultural thing now. I don't think it's entirely negative though.
Yeah, 100%. I just wanted to echo your comments and what we're seeing in some of the other sports, like your point on we consume sports content differently now. The fact that there's so many platforms like your own sports podcasts that talk about the edges of the game. That's how young people consume like sports nowadays. They don't watch full games. They might just listen to a podcast. And what we see in other sports like boxing, that whole model is premised on big fighters doing the big ticket pay-per-view fights to then feed the rest of the sport. And that's what Perez's idea was. Like his vision made sense to some degree. Is you get these big fights, was essentially these big games amongst these big clubs, which entices the casual fan. They're not going to watch Burnley versus Scunthorpe in a Carling Cup fifth round, wherever it might be, but they're going to tune into Real Madrid, Man United, and if you hook them on that product, you can keep them in for the other content, like what we've also seen in like Formula One. So like Formula One were taken over by a PE house, a private equity house over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And they just re-envisioned the whole sport. Like they've got their Netflix drama. They reinvented their YouTube, so you get these highlights. But it makes the sport more interesting for the casual.
Yeah, and not just the casual, but the younger fan too. They would notice it.
Exactly, the young
Yeah.
casual fan who are going to be buying your product for the next 20, 30, 40
But
years. All
what's
these old
interesting?
guys.
So just quickly, Lex, what's interesting is you look at Arsenal fan TV, you look at all of these fan channels, like there's young people following them. So it's not like young people are falling out of the game because like young people are still like the numbers that make up like not even just Premier League. Like you look at Beatties, I know the guy that runs Beatties. Like most of the people that are watching grassroots, like all like SE Dons and Beatties, they're all young people.
Oh, 100%. Yes, the young kids that are watching them comment on the pages. So it's like basically feeding the content of your sport in the different channels. And I don't think that's what I think that the premise of Super League trying to get that across. I think that value or that principle was one of the best of the idea. They just didn't sell that part of it well enough.
All right, before we move on, Tops, are you still here? And can you give us, or Sai as well, give us a little update on what's going on in the Spurs game? And is this a boring game or is this like an advert for the Super League?
No, man, we're not playing too well, man. Like, Southampton played very, very well in the first half. I don't know. We don't seem to have like a focal point up top. We've kind of got like three sort of fluid attackers in and around, and Southampton seem to be getting through our midfield far too easily at the moment. So at the moment, I don't know. I'm looking at this and I'm not particularly like happy. I'm not really seeing what's going to change. But I don't know, unless we maybe change the system or maybe bring on Vinicius. I'm not sure. But at the moment, like our important guys aren't really performing today.
What's Bell saying? What's Gareth Bell saying?
He's
stinking the joint.
He's not doing well, brother. He's not doing well.
Did you see that? In fact, you saw the text. It's in the Spurs group chat about the reason why Mourinho got sacked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you, if you remember, just for people that haven't seen it, what was the reason again? I think. It was the long text bit. People were saying that.
Okay. Yeah. There was a lot of different things that were said in that message, but basically, Mourinho was, in the scheme of things, he's always been on the ropes. One second, let me just get it. Let me just get it. Is it here? Bum. 1 second, bro.
No problem. Yeah, so apparently, because like obviously he got sacked, and one of the things was he sacked because of the Super League too, because it was like the same time, and obviously Spurs, you've got a final this weekend as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of people saying, okay, why now, basically?
Oh, sorry, I can't seem to find it. 1 second.
It's minor. But yeah, I've been watching this game and it's dry. But this is the Premier League.
I can't lie, the conversation was way more interesting in this game.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like a lot more of these conversations have been interesting in the games that we've seen over the last couple of days, which is like a massive advertisement for the Super League. I ain't saying I want it, but boy, it's looking a bit sticky.
But don't forget the Super League again. It's not a replacement for the Premier League. It's a cup.
Oh yeah, I've known that. Like, remember, I was on saying earlier on that people were misguided with it.
I'm more entertained by the musical number at the Spurs protest than the actual game, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, so wait, there was a Spurs protest too?
Oh, mate, that wasn't a protest.
That was 6 fans.
Was it 6
fans?
That was
6 fans, bro.
That was everyone's daily permitted walk, mate. That wasn't a protest. These lot are embarrassing. Printing out placards on A4 piece of paper. Should be ashamed of themselves, man. I'm a snitch on all of them, man, and make them have to expense the paper and the ink that they use. These are working from home and taking walks to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
To be fair, there was nothing really to protest. By that time, Spurs was out, right?
They're just making stuff up as they go along, to be perfectly honest, man. Like, obviously, people are always unhappy with billionaire owners. Like, it goes in every sport.
This is what I'm saying. I don't get. Like, when it comes down to it, Roman Abramovich, I'd say good for the English game. The City guys, good for the English game. Like, really and truly, you want money people that are going to put money into the game because it makes the product better.
And that's the hypocrisy. People are just asking for their owners to pump money into their club.
100%.
They want to be bankrolled by a sugar daddy. But on the flip side, they'll say, "Oh, the sugar daddy mentality is what's killing the game."
Why do you have to call it a sugar daddy? Why do you have to call it a sugar daddy? I hate that term because it makes it negative.
It's dubious means, isn't it? It's like financial fair play was supposed to sort of put a halt to that, but by the time they had implemented it, all of the damage had already been done.
And they
Like,
didn't really,
But wasn't it Roman? Wasn't it Roman who?
enforce it
Wasn't it
either.
Roman who led that though? He wanted to block more Romans coming through, basically.
No, yeah, it was Bayern Munich that led it, but Roman was on the table. He was one of them. Like they wanted the financial fair players because he was like, actually, I'm gonna have to spend even more money to make up ground if other billionaires come in. So yeah, Roman was part of that.
But they didn't even really enforce FFP though. Like if you look at it, the sanctions that they tried to do or whatnot, they all failed. Like even
they always backed off of the punishments as well.
they didn't follow through on it, to be honest. But so Dan, were you for the Super League?
No, I wasn't for it. I wasn't really for it, but as time went on, like the Capital Moments guy said, it almost I still was. There's no way I can be for it when it's Kroenke and it's the Glazers. Like the board was rubbish. Plus, I didn't like the idea of the closed 15. I didn't like that idea. So I think that's the same as many people. But on the other hand, I like the ambition of Perez. That's what I liked. He was trying to drag the game forward. He forget about this whole making games shorter. Like he was saying, no, actually, the game will be better. Like what the Capital Moments guy says. Just make it like blockbuster team against blockbuster team, and then use that money to fund the rest of the game. And didn't they say they was going to give 10 billion back or whatever? So
yeah,
in principle, that sounds good. I just don't trust them guys, which is
yeah,
what stopped me from being for it.
Yeah, fair. I think I'm in the same boat as you. You know, like I think the concept, in terms of getting more good teams to play each other and stuff like that, I think is positive. But I was saying this to Sai yesterday. Like, I just feel the whole enshrining of certain clubs, like to be in it for the next 20 years and whatnot, I think actually does go against the sport. Mainly only in England, because I think the other leagues it's going to be almost impossible to move the other 6 teams from their positions in the league. But I think in the Prem, there is that sort of fluidity as to who drops in and out of the big teams, because I think if you look at the way someone like Leicester have been run, and I think Leicester and probably Spurs as well are good examples of this. 10 years ago, if you said that Spurs were going to be, in the Champions League 5 years in a row, you say that Leicester's going to be in Europe, probably 3 years in a row now, I think, then, you'd get laughed out of the room kind of thing. And I feel like losing that fluidity and that ability to not necessarily, I know people make this argument, oh, who's actually won the Premier League? Fine. But there's another 5 teams going in there other than the champions from the Prem. So, and I think the ability for teams to become part of that 5 or 6 needs to be open. But I do hear the arguments for the Super League, and I just feel like if they came in with it and said it's going to be like the Champions League, you qualify via your league position, then I don't think there would have been this uproar at all.
Then I think crux of that for me, the only exception I have with that is the whole premise is for it to not be the Champions League. If they were just doing a remarketed Champions League, I wouldn't back it in any capacity. But the sort of effort to try and do something different, to me, I'm all for, because I'm tired of this structure because it doesn't actually work. It still funnels money into the big elite clubs anyway, so why not double down on it and just call it for what it is? Like, at least then there's no smoke and mirrors. That for me is the only thing that really like drew me towards it. It lets me know what football is about, innit? And I'd rather know my enemy than not.
I guess you know it already, though.
Yeah, precisely. But that insidious type of British sensibility approach to it, I don't really rock with it. So I'd rather it just be overt, and for me to know that it's dirty and nasty and enjoy it for how dirty and nasty it is, as opposed to it being like a undertone that we can all see, we can all smell, we can all feel, but everybody says, "Oh no, you get Spurs in the Champions League final." Who cares? Who cares?
And I guess my main question about UEFA and stuff like that is, I know people like the whole thing was like, oh, they've they earned 3 billion or something in the last year. They only dished out 250 mil and whatnot. But does anyone know where the rest of that money's actually gone? Like, is that to distribute funds or whatnot, or is that just going to people's salaries and stuff like that? Like, where is the 2.75 billion gone?
I would need to check, but that will be probably on their financial statements, because you got to remember that UEFA fund the Euros as well, so a lot of money will go to that. So I mean, it'll probably be on their financial statements, but I mean, I can't be bothered to check that. But they probably do distribute a bit of it, but not much. I can't say they distribute much.
And I did have a Spurs question though, not on the Super League, but
yeah, brother.
Is on this Ryan Mason thing, yeah?
Get in, bro. Get in. Now we talking.
Got 1-1, yeah?
Yeah, man. Sorry, Dan.
No, I was just gonna say on the coach thing, like, do we know why Ryan Mason was picked over like Chris Powell?
What are you asking why?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Dan asked us earlier on, and we kind of had a bit of a discussion in our group about this, man. So obviously Ryan Mason, 29, he's the under 18s and I think 23's coach. And obviously Chris Powell, who obviously has managed like Charlton, Huddersfield, Southend, he actually basically dropped down in terms of like managing and became a Tottenham coach like last year. So we first of all don't know if maybe it was offered to him, because Chris Powell has managed more than 300 like professional football matches. Obviously we know that it wasn't going to go to King because King hasn't done all of his coaching yet. It wasn't going to go to Robbie Keane because he still is like a low coach in Spurs. And Ryan Mason's obviously just in the last sort of year has taken on this role as like youth development. So we don't know if it was actually offered to Chris Powell, but we can only assume that, you know, there were a number of people that were probably put forward, and maybe Ryan was quite happy to take it. Like, it's a bit unnerving because he's so young. Like, he's 2 years below in age. He's 2 years younger than Gareth Bale is. He played with like quite a few of the guys who are still in the team now. So you kind of wonder why. But then we also did say in the group that Tottenham maybe are kind of taken on the model that because he is interim, it's kind of similar to our situation when we had Tim Sherwood, whereby we knew that it was going to be a short-term thing, and we were just having someone to just sort of take the reins just for the sort of short period, whilst we can like look for a more maybe long-term sort of person. I mean, I don't want to look at it as being like racially motivated, because like, you know, in the last sort of few years, we have been very much pro trying to get black coaches in sort of positions, or, you know, high sort of positions in management. So unless, you know, someone comes out about whether, you know, he chose to not take it or he wasn't offered it, then we won't really know. But at this point, I'm just going to take it for what it is, you know, like try not to read into it too much just because it's interim.
The thing that stood out for me the most, and yeah, it's similar to the Sherwood situation. They hold similar roles in terms of like the development sort of criteria of what their job titles were. But also the main component for me and the main takeaway was Mason played under Pochettino with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, true.
So if you're coming off Jose, where we basically undid everything we learned, the easiest way to sort of put a Band-Aid over the wound is to go back to what you were doing before. And having a coach that was there allows you a bit of a route to that. On the black coach thing, I mean, we've had a lot of black coaches, to be fair, over the last 15 years. Like, we saw Chris Hughton go on to manage after being a Spurs coach. So I do feel like we are making an effort. Obviously, the effort across the board should be better, and we're still waiting for a top tier player at that, to transition from legend of a club to a manager. But yeah, I'm just being patient with it, to be honest, man. I would hate for Ledley King to get the opportunity too early and then never get the opportunity again.
I don't want that, man. I don't want that, man. Can't ruin his legacy yet, brother.
Exactly, and then on Chris Powell, it is what it is. Like, I would say Mason knows the club better, just from being around over this period of time. So just give it to him on the interim and then get a real manager in. And as on the point of his age, he's only a few years younger than Nagelsmann, right? So
yeah, true.
There you go, innit? To get these men used to being coached by someone young, and then go and get the man, innit?
Yeah, fair play. I never liked Ryan Mason still when he played for you, man.
I mean, he was okay. He wasn't anything special, but like he's again one of these guys who, clearly with Pochettino's coaching, he was able to do a role and do it kind of well when he played. So I'm not saying he was anyone that was like unbelievable, but you could always leave a post with him and know that he was going to do a job for us. Did pop up with your goal as well. So
he was a nasty guy, man. Absolutely nasty guy. Loved to leave a foot in.
Nah, but I can't believe Spurs used to have a midfield of Mason and Bentaleb.
That was a big Bentaleb fan, man. I like that.
He's
a baller, man.
Toby used to love Bentaleb as well.
Yeah, but he was good, man. He was actually a good player. Like,
yeah, he was actually good, but I think he had a fallout with Poch. So
yeah, something changed, and then he basically ended up having, after basically a year with Poch, he basically just was like not even picked or anything. So
yeah, man, it was crazy.
He ended up moving on. Oh, come on!
If I was an opposition fan, I'd have bare like tongue in cheek jokes about this Mason stuff. I can't lie.
Someone said earlier.
But we're on YouTube though, innit? So I can't see it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you got to maybe message. Is there something I'm missing?
I've just got a sick sense of humor sometimes, innit?
Okay.
So
I'm intrigued. So even if you have to private message it, but someone was saying earlier, I can't believe Spurs' coach was born in the 90s. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. He's younger than some of us, man. Yeah.
That is crazy, bro.
Ryan Mason, I went to school with him, innit? He was a year above me in school.
Oh, swear?
Where?
That's why, Dan. That's why you don't like him, Dan.
No, I hated him in school as well. So yeah.
So what is it about? What is it about Ryan Mason? Go give us the insight.
Nah, he's just a nasty guy. Like them guys like who like when you're with guys you're blessed with, they're proper blessed with you, yeah. And then when he gets you by himself, he just starts like moving different, basically.
Oh, what stories? You got stories, man.
Nah, it's just like it's minor stuff, man. When you're like 12, 13, innit? Like, man will just boot your ball away for no reason.
Okay. Was he
man. He bullied Dan in secondary school. That's why.
You're holding on. Look. You're actually holding on.
No, just say, man. Just say, bro.
Yeah, he bullied Dan in school. He used to pull down his trousers and give him a wedgie.
Coogs, we gave you time to tell us the truth, but now Tobes is here. Tobes, tell us everything.
Tell us everything.
Hey, man. Tobes don't know nothing from school days, man. Joke, man.
Wait. Was he in your year or was he in the year above? What that?
He was year above.
Okay. And what, like, is there any kind of juicy gossip type of?
Nah, nothing.
Was he playing
for
Spurs at the time?
I don't even know, to be honest. Like,
he must have, surely.
I think he was. I think he was in the academy. There was a few guys from my school though that were in and around different academies, innit? So
really?
There was because Jake Livermore went to my school as well.
Jake Livermore.
Yeah. But
did Tom Carroll go to your school as well then?
Yeah. No, I think he went Ignatius
because he played. Oh, he went Ignatius because he
played best stinky Spurs midfield.
Ricardo was
wait, Dan, did you go to Ignatius?
Same group.
No, I didn't go to Ignatius.
Okay.
So where did you go?
I went to Enfield Grammar School.
Okay.
Wow, this is a proper interrogation.
All right, because I went to St. Aloysius, but I was only there for year 7, and then I went.
Well, then you went St. Aloysius top.
Yeah,
mad. We used to play them in. We used to have them in athletics.
Year 7, I was in St. Aloysius, and then
back in the 90s, yeah, Tobes.
What's that?
So back in the 90s, yeah.
Back in the what? Back in the
Back in-
90s.
Your mic is
Back in
mad,
those,
man.
Oh, Babs, man. Honestly, bro, stop it, man. You young ones, bro, allow it, man.
Bro, I went to. What are you on about back in the 90s? You're crazy if you think I was in secondary school in the 90s.
Yeah, man. They had you, man.
Babs, you need to sort out your mic. You're
TVs, innit?
supposed to be representing the younger generation. Your mic is fucked. Anyway,
Terrible.
Young guys don't know anything about technology, man. All they know is selfies and that, man.
That's
Get
it, man.
but wait. So how come so many Spurs players went to your? I get because North London, innit? And they probably sent them to
Yeah.
like, in Croydon they all sent them to a school called Whitgift.
Yeah,
Like that's
South,
why.
yeah.
Hudson Odoi went there. Victor Moses went there.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he went Whitgift. Musiala, the one that's just gone to Germany, he went there as well. Like Chelsea sent all of their ballers there. But like, was you good at ball, Cougs? Do you play for the? Are you going to be playing for the touchy team?
I'll try play.
Who did that for?
Boy, after that started, that was a firm no, my guy.
Yeah. No, I'm all right. I'm at football, man. I'm nothing special in it. Nothing special in it. I didn't play sport.
To be fair,
Even
TG
on my
had
neck
ballers
today.
already. I know Nigerian Dan's a baller, obviously, and used to play, but he's kind of cropped, I think.
Wait, Nigerian Dan's a
German
baller.
Dan,
Since
Dan,
when?
Dan.
Sorry, German Dan.
German Dan.
It's because he's Nigerian too, bro. Yeah.
Tobes was like, I have to refute that immediately.
No, because I know I'm shit, and Dan would call me out if I ever said I was a decent baller. But I can't have him being called a baller.
We need
No,
to get.
I'm not. I'm okay, man. I'm okay.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
a
not
right
that
back.
touch, but you're not a
I'm a right
baller.
back. Yeah. He was talking about German Dan.
Yeah, I was talking about German Dan, but yeah, we need to. Obviously, everything's going again, so we need to get some games going on again.
Oh, German.
Yeah,
so German Dan's a baller, yeah.
Touchline 5s, touchline 11s, man. I'm there.
Yeah.
I
German
heard
Dan's...
Tops.
We need ringside fans, man.
That's what I heard.
No one
Tops
wants
is
to
basically
listen. Babs
JJ
is 6'7", you know. I don't know if you guys know. Babs is 6'7".
Oh, so Babs is
We're
Babs,
down, Joe.
Babs is
Wait,
big for
Babs.
nothing then, yeah.
Wait, Babs, why are you a centre?
What is
brother?
Babs? Is what does that mean?
Babs
He's
can
centre
play in goal,
back
then.
or centre forward? What does that mean?
Wait, Babs should be playing centre, man. What's he talking about? He should be
You
playing.
should be playing. Yeah, you should be playing. You should be playing centre.
He's playing in goal, mate.
That's a UK centre. What the hell? That's a UK
He's
centre.
gonna be doing Dan Burn flying wing back, yeah.
Hey, listen, I can't even like the moment I went above a certain height, I had to stop playing football, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
look,
that transition.
It generally didn't slap the same, man. I couldn't do anything.
That transition is mad.
Wait.
You have to play through it. You have to play through it.
If
So I
you're
remember.
6'7", what size foot are you? What size shoe are you?
Right.
13.
Mad.
Yeah, he's mad. Like he's mad.
What, can you hoop then?
I can't lie. I'm decent, but I'm not hooping with you. 'Cause I know you're good.
Who's good?
No, I'm
washed.
washed. I'm fat now, bro.
Yeah,
I'm a bit fat. Me and Harold did play though. Me and Harold did play.
Is Harold good?
Yeah, what's Harold like?
Harold saying I'm arse, but I gave him the shimmy. Get out of here, bro.
Man said a shimmy, bro.
Stop
You
it.
went 1 for 19 from the field, my guy.
Shoot is shoot, bro. Shoot is shoot. Shoot is shoot.
Right,
The rim.
no, but
To be fair, the rim was about a foot and a half too high, bro.
Bro, that foot is that thing's like 12
I can't like some of the rims in the UK are
The court was dusty as well, man.
That's funny. I didn't even know Harold was here, man. But once you started slandering his basketball,
This Harold guy, yeah, he's always
piped up.
lurking, man. He's always lurking.
Always local.
He's been waiting to get that joke off for time as well, because when he said it mid game, I splashed it in his face, innit? So he's feeling a bit salty, bruv.
Interesting.
Oh, and Dombele 72 minutes.
Yeah, brother.
Not bad.
Yeah, man.
Oh, question,
He's
yeah.
in shit.
He's been rubbish, man.
Question, yeah. Rate Ndombele as a signing for Spurs out of 10.
7 at the
I'm saying
minute.
6.5, 7. Yeah.
Man said 7. What? 7 out of what?
7 out of
700?
7 out of 10.
No way.
That's
7
very
out of
high.
10.
That is
Why is it
that's
high?
outrageous from you.
Why is it
Sam.
high? The first season was a wash because I always expect that, and this season I feel like he's shown enough to say,
What?
okay, cool. What we'll be able to do is build around this guy as a linchpin in our midfield.
No. I'm not
for
talking
what
about
we've
for the
paid for this
future.
player.
I'm talking about so far in terms of what he's shown.
Ah, see, that's a different thing. If you're talking about his form, then it's about a 6.5, I'd say.
Oof.
Go on.
This
Wait,
is
Play
so
the
you
fucking
reduced it by
pass. Yes.
0.5?
Finally, go on.
Yeah.
Bang. Yes.
Now we're
Boom.
talking.
Yes.
Now we're talking.
Come on.
Who scored?
Finally,
Who
the
scored?
Can you
Celso.
imagine?
Finally,
From
the
winning
Celso
position,
plays for the
from
fucking
losing
line.
position
That's what
to
happened.
fucking
Bang.
line, man.
Yes.
Honestly.
Who
Finally.
scored? Who
Boom.
scored? Who scored? What's his name?
Finally, Lo Celso actually picks up the ball and plays through the fucking lines with his passing, bro. Finally.
Yes. Come on.
Jose's gone and this guy's still stressed.
Winning positions, man. We ain't come back from a losing position in time. Honestly.
Fam, who scored?
Son.
Son. Okay, he's finally scoring again. Nice.
Yeah, a regular on assist.
That's a good build-up as well.
Yeah, it was, man. Fuck.
Ross. So
See
Jose's
what
gone.
happens when you
guys are
actually try and
building-
play some
you guys
football,
build their
bro?
play.
Like what?
We actually built
String
the
together
play,
some
man.
passes.
Honestly.
Finally.
Right.
Hey,
Spurs played
what
through
you guys
midfield,
doing this
you
when
know? What's
Jose
that?
first came, no?
Nah.
Finally,
You guys
man.
trying to pass together.
Wake up.
Project
Come
Restart
on.
we did. Project Restart.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
started
When he
to
first
try
came
and
in
play
it.
a bit of the ball. That wasn't when he first came. It was after they had a little bit of time, innit? But
Okay.
again, we've
break it.
documented that. We've documented that already, man.
And
Can't
some
rehash
leagues-
old
I don't know,
stuff.
man.
needed that.
I remember the podcast earlier this season. So
Nah,
I've
come
never
on.
seen
They
the
can't
shouts.
give that as offside.
Don't
No
worry,
way.
man.
No way.
I've been listening.
Wait, but who though? Is that regular?
Mora. They're saying
Oh,
Mora's
Mora.
Nah, no way. No way can they cancel that.
But is he in?
Come on, man.
Is he in the goalkeepers?
Hey, cancel it, man. Let's get some more drama back in, man.
He's not
Cancel
saving
it.
it anyway.
Cancel
Yeah,
it
so
immediately.
anyway, man.
Look.
Cancel it immediately.
Come
man.
on.
This isn't fair. This isn't fair.
Nah, come on, man.
Nah, do you know what? Do
Hey.
you know what? What was the one? What was
That's
the
that
one?
Super League tax.
What was the one? With it was Everton versus Man United. In the last minute, they disallowed Everton's
He's cancelled
goal
it.
because they-
Fucking
Yeah, they
ridiculous,
cancelled.
man.
Wow.
That's bullshit, man.
Yeah,
Hey, listen.
Fuck.
The game's
big
the game,
fouls,
man.
man.
The game's the game, bro.
Yeah.
Bullshit,
yeah.
man.
Gone.
What
The
the
game's
fuck?
gone.
It's Celso.
Game's gone. Oh my god, terrible.
So what he's saying is that he's offside because he's in the
That Mora's a
goalkeeper's line.
fuck.
Boy.
Fam, they have
Even though
history of
he's
this,
not,
though.
even though he's got no fucking chance of saving a shot.
That's frustrating. Man.
That's so stupid.
Frustrating, but I suppose he was in the goalkeeper's line.
Yeah, but he's not saving it though.
To be fair, if I'm totally honest, offside they make a meal out of because of the little lines.
Yeah.
But realistically, you can't debate it. You can't debate it. He's in the line of sight. He's directly blocking
In front of him,
his
yeah.
view
So.
to Son.
It's annoying, isn't it?
But that's
That was a good
about
goal.
as virtuous
That was a
as
good
I'm
goal
gonna be.
still.
It was a good
It
goal.
was a good goal. It was a good
Fuck's
goal.
sake, man.
That's Mariah rubbing it in. It was a good goal.
Nah,
bro. It should have
It was a good goal.
I reckon,
Imagine if it was
I reckon we can hit one, man.
I think Mariah, you know the goal I'm talking about, though. George Ladd said it in the chat. The Sigurdsson one for De Gea. It was the exact same.
And that goal should have stood. That goal.
Oh, did the goal get ruled out?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, it did. It did.
Oh, sorry. You know my streams they're lagging nowadays. I just saw it go in, and I just came onto the Discord.
Yeah,
I didn't know it got ruled out.
Lucas Moura is offside.
Yeah, that's offside still.
Yeah.
He's interfering still, but that's a good finish from Son. You guys feeling confident to go on and win it now?
We should.
I think we can. We've
Moron
been in like
is
decent
a
positions.
fucking donut, man.
Gotta make
We say Mora's a moron.
Fucking
Yeah, but
donut, man.
he's been a more on Moran, man.
I think,
So,
to be fair, like whoever scored first was probably losing this match
why'd you say that, Dan?
because I think they've dropped the most points from winning positions.
Oh,
I think
These two.
yeah, I think Spurs are second and Southampton are top.
Yeah.
Damn.
yeah, man.
Southampton, they were the people's favourites for a period.
Yeah,
Hey man, they got bare
Injuries.
bare injuries. But that's just from the way they play in it. So
I think they're 20th in the form table, no?
Yeah.
Would you take Hasenhüttl, Spurs guys?
Yes, I would. Not my first choice, but if we hired him, I'd take it.
You guys you've seen your link to Sari. What are you lot's thoughts?
I'd take him as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know others might, but I think these guys are good footballing coaches, man.
Agreed. It's about the quality of the players they have and their ability to instill their philosophy in their players. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely, man.
So
Why
it'll be
did
interesting.
Mora take that away from Son?
He's a wild boy. That's why.
Funny guy.
He's a wild boy. Mora thinks he's the MVP of this team. Is Harry Kane injured?
Yeah, he's injured, man.
When's he back?
How long is he out for?
We're not sure because he got injured in our last
Ryan
game.
Mason said that hopefully he might be back on Friday.
Okay. What was the injury?
Ankle.
Ankle. Someone fell on him by accident.
Oh yeah, I saw that actually. Sorry. Oh man.
Just a bit unfortunate.
Play.
Well, you're looking to have him back for the final, yeah?
Oh, maybe, man.
Nah, this ref is a fucking joke. Are you kidding me?
No Dele Alli today.
Nah, he's on the bench.
He's
This
on
ref's a
bench.
fucking idiot. Why would you not just play advantage? What the hell?
He's on bench.
You don't sound as upbeat as you did a couple of days ago, Tops.
Upbeat, brother.
Yeah, what's going on, bro?
What do I have to be upbeat about, man?
Mourinho's out, you know.
Oh, I'm happy, man. I'm happy about Mourinho gone. Yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
how gutted are you about the Super League not happening, or were you against it?
I wasn't against it. Like, for me, I just feel like we had kind of willed ourselves into the conversation over the last sort of few years, and
willed yourself
in
elite
the sense,
mentality.
in the sense that you can clearly see that as a football club, the profile of the football club, and obviously our performance in Europe in the last sort of 4 or 5 seasons has kind of got us in that conversation, and that's probably down to the owner, which I can't fault him for. But I mean, I know we were taking a lot of strays because people were talking about our form in the league and us not winning anything, which I can kind of agree with as well. But I feel like if we're looking at it from a business perspective, like Tottenham are becoming a bigger brand and we're in the trajectory. Sorry.
Why do you say it's down to the owner?
Because a lot of his decisions, whilst they haven't always been like primarily footballing decisions, they've increased the profile of the football club and the business of the football club as well. So that's why.
Tell us a bit about those decisions for those who are not aware.
So I suppose it's just things like, obviously he's put a completely new football stadium. Considering we have always been we've been a London team with a not amazing sort of stadium, but not just a stadium, but something that can be used to sort of attain other streams of revenue, like concerts and all these things as well. And these also, and without obviously us having sorted the naming rights as well, there's always potential for more revenue. So probably in the scheme of things, we would be looking like a club that would be good to possibly even buy in the future. And these are all decisions that he maybe has put as primary as opposed to the footballing side, which obviously has, we've been very lucky that Pochettino was able to do what he did on very limited funds as well. But I mean, in terms, the one thing I didn't like about it, was the notion that people were assuming that it was in replacement of the league, and I just thought maybe people hadn't read into it enough, or people didn't read the details enough. But like a closed competition, okay, like so for instance, right? What makes what UEFA are technically trying to like propose now any different to the plans that ESL were basically?
You have to league qualificate. You have to still qualify for the league, right?
But then what about this? What about this idea of then football heritage? You can.
Yeah, I mean, I think people can swallow 2 legacy spots. They can't swallow a whole league made up of 75% of the teams being there due to legacy.
But then the one thing that gets me is that as well, like a lot of these smaller teams, whether you like to call them small or not, they've been eating or riding the coattails of all these big teams for so long. And you have to understand why not the big teams to realize that, you know what, we want the biggest pie in this and we'll take the biggest pie and you can basically deal with whatever is left, basically, you know, like.
It's all about
so many
it's all about
times.
self-interest, though, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, man. It is. Like, you know, I'm as a Spurs fan, I'm happy because obviously there was always the potential for more money. That means more revenue. Potentially, the stadium can be paid off. A better quality of player can be bought. But I'm kind of like, what can I say? I'm just happy to be involved. Really, at this point, like, I'm not going to say.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like that's how you all feel, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. You say it's down to the owner, though. Like,
yeah, and the reason I say that as well is sorry. The reason I say that is because, like, for a long time, I very much not believed the direction in which he was taking things, because I felt like he would never give the managers, historically, give the managers the money and the sort of the resources that were required. Even what would be classed as our best manager in recent times, he still wasn't happy to support him and give him the funds. But I do look at football, yes, as a business as well, and Tottenham as a club, we now can say that lots of decisions that have been made by him have been kind of good ones, because we have an amazing stadium, we've got a very, very good academy, we've got the infrastructure to now press on and be included in these conversations, and hopefully this will translate on the footballing side. Like, I'm not that clued up with regards to Enix's involvement, but I do feel like the manager, the owner, he has in the last few years made decisions which have benefited the football club. And I don't know, maybe this European Super League one was maybe one step too far, because he was trying to, you know, we've also been a club we've borrowed money as well. So the fact that he wants to try and recoup all this money, all those different like things that we've organized in the stadium and things like concerts and like this, he's just trying to obviously look at it from a financial point of view, whereas there's very much a reason to be like, we are a football club first. You don't really want to alienate the fans. You don't really want to alienate the club's history in terms of what we've achieved up till now, you know?
Wait, well said.
This is free call penalty.
Because I think from my perspective, I would say
that's handball.
I would say the emergence of Harry Kane and Pochettino, I think, have been way.
That's a penalty.
bigger.
That's a pen. That's a penalty. Sorry, Dan. Yeah. Harry Kane and sorry, who?
And Pochettino, and I guess you could say good appointment from the owner to pick Pochettino, but
yeah, man.
but I would say like the emergence of Harry Kane is probably the number one reason as to why Spurs are where they are. That you have a player of.
I disagree with that, man.
But then,
like, it was a slow grind, man. It's been a slow grind. We were supposed to build the stadium in like 2008.
Do you want to know why I say that? Yeah, it's because I feel like no matter how much planning and, you know, structure and whatnot that you put in place, if you don't have a player
that's a penalty
of the caliber of Harry Kane come through your academy, I think it takes you another maybe like 6-7 years to get to where you are.
At the same time,
often do you get like, and it's not just the fact that he's come through your academy, but he's actually been one of the best players.
He came through an academy that was in his generation revamped by this ownership. Like we saw an influx of players making it into our first team through the work that they did in the lead up to Harry Kane. Like, the two things go hand in hand as far as I'm concerned. It's like Harry Kane could have stayed at Arsenal. Could have stayed at Arsenal academy prospect.
I think Son's gonna take it, no?
I don't know, man. For me, it's a hard work and stars aligning type of thing. Because as far as I'm concerned, when people say that Levy and Enoch don't care about football, they obviously care more about football business, right? Which is a key component you need within a football club, right? And where it gets a little bit murky and where the complaints are validated
Come on, son.
is
Please, Sonny.
maybe where he
Please.
verges and crosses that line a little bit too
Please.
much, where he tries to get involved in footballing matters. But for me, if you've ever been to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you know that that's a football stadium.
It's incredible.
When you go to the Emirates or the London Stadium, even to some, sorry, my son is being crazy. Even the Etihad, they don't feel like football stadiums.
That's not
They
true.
don't feel like
no.
football in stadiums.
Why is that true
The
about Emirates?
Because the Emirates is clearly a copy and paste job in terms of it is
Of
there
what?
for multi-purpose.
Come
There
on,
are
just
other
block
stadiums
this,
that
please.
look the same
Block
and
this,
feel the same as the
please.
Emirates in terms of it being just a generic bowl shape
Yes!
for multi-purpose usage. The distance between the touchlines and the fans, like these things
Let's
matter
go.
in
What?
Tottenham.
What are you even celebrating, bro?
Yes!
Your season's
Yes.
done. Your season's done.
It doesn't matter about the season's done. We need to.
Your
I want to win.
season's done.
So what?
We
Because
got
the
your
season's done,
season's done.
I should want to lose. What kind of
Yeah.
logic is that?
Yeah. But you weren't losing. You were drawing.
Come on. Boom.
You weren't losing.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's
You
go.
weren't losing.
Let's go.
You weren't losing.
Let's go.
So Dan,
Anyway,
it's not even a knock on the Emirates. It's a fantastic stadium. It's just if you look at the components that old traditional football stadiums have, it's all about acoustics. It's all about like the fans feeling on top of you, things like that. Those atmospheric things are what differentiate just a nice state-of-the-art stadium and a football stadium. That's literally it in a nutshell. When you go to the Spurs ground, everything is close to the pitch. The acoustics have been designed to keep the sound in, all of those little details that make it clear that he thinks about the football experience when he makes football business decisions, right? So for me, like, he's done a good job. He's done a good job. We just need to rejig the structure a little bit to make it so we have a director of football, we have footballing people making the footballing decisions.
That's it, man. That's it. It's a big summer for Daniel Levy. It's a big summer for him. This is why like the whole Daniel Levy topic, like, I will always understand why some fans are Daniel Levy out, because over the last 8 to 10 years, stadium aside, if you can put the stadium aside, we've had some really, really poor decisions in key moments that could have been the difference between possible success. But those same fans always fail to neglect where Spurs were when Daniel Levy came and where Spurs are now. Not just when Pochettino came, even before Pochettino came, we were a side that were, if not finishing in the top 4, at least pushing for the top 4, which is a stone's throw away from where we were when he took over. So I think with Daniel Levy, you need to apply context. Can he do better? Yes. Is he for me walking on a tightrope? Yes. But has he been a bad chairman for Spurs? Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. You can't call him a bad chairman, no, man. Impossible. You know what? I honestly, when I think about your point, that's always one of the big ones for me. Where were we and where are we now, basically? You know, like I think with Levy, I think his work has ensured that we're in a position where we can be selected. Obviously, Pochettino helped, but we're in a position where we can be selected for a European Super League. We're in a position where we are like the 10th richest club, etc., etc. But I think what he needs to do now, like Sai said, is either put up or shut up. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, you've done well on the business end, but it's clear to see for me, he's not good. He's not good enough on the football end. He always prioritizes business over football. So you need to step aside and put people to make the right footballing decisions. You need to get the right manager into this club, and you need to have the right willingness when it comes to taking that risk to sign players, because this guy's been too risk averse when it comes to signing players that will genuinely improve this team. So he needs to do these things, because he spoke about how he's going to change, etc., with the stadium, like how we're going to operate differently and stuff like that. And to a certain extent, I think you've seen that in our spend over the last 2 seasons. But the counter argument for that would be, well, wait a minute, we didn't spend anything for 18 months, etc., etc. So I think he's at a crossroads now. I appreciate all the good work he's done, but
that's not going to make people give him any leeway if we botch it up again this summer with the managerial appointment, with the footballing structure in place, etc., etc. Because we cannot have we can't have 3 consecutive seasons like this. You get what I'm saying? We can't. So for me, he needs to. This summer's big for him. This summer's big for him.
Huge.
I'm not sure about these lot. Maybe they may feel differently, but on a personal, if he gets it wrong this summer, I think that's when I'll go from being indifferent on leave you in or leave it out to leave you out, because I can't take another season like this. I can't take another season like this where he makes dumb footballing decisions that are so avoidable. So big summer ahead for him.
Sorry, these lot don't seem to understand the sentiment of what I said about the stadium, right? All modern football stadiums are used for multi-purpose because that's how teams separate their revenue streams, right? They increase their revenue streams by renting it out for other events. We had an initial stadium design back in 2006, 2007 that was basically a carbon copy of the Emirates. Because of the fact that we couldn't secure all the planning rights around, it gave it time to get redesigned. And in that redesign, football became more of a focus, right? They added a single tier stand. They moved the stands closer to the pitch. They changed the acoustic design. All of these things are centered around the football experience. So yes, it's a multi-purpose arena. And yes, we have an NFL pitch, but the NFL pitch isn't the primary use case. It's the football. So let's not be dim. Let's not be reductive to a point just because you think there's bias. But if you look at the difference in the way it's built, it's very, very clear that it's a football first stadium.
I mean, I've not been to Spurs' ground in it, but all I know is that when it comes to the Emirates, it's definitely not a copy and paste job. Like even the way some of the stands are built, it's designed to let extra light hit the pitch at certain angles.
There's a Portuguese club that has the exact same stadium as you, man.
Yeah, and which one was built first?
It doesn't matter what was built. I'm saying the design. Even our original stadium. Our stadium was made by the same people, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, but you said it's a copy and paste. So, and I said which one was built first, because then that says to you which one has had the design element, etc., come out of it. Like you can talk about the Etihad and all of this, and how the Emirates isn't a proper football stadium and all of this stuff. But I just personally don't think that's true. I think that's a sly dig.
I didn't take offense to that. If you take offense to that, to there being similar stadium designs that look like yours, which suggests that it's like, all right, cool. We've not considered Arsenal directly. We've just put up a really, really nice stadium. If you take offense to that, fine. But the facts are there, innit? Whether yours was the first or the second or the third is irrelevant. There's other stadiums that you guys could walk into, change the branding, and it would look and feel exactly like the Emirates. That just is what it is.
There's one thing though. I don't think I disagree. I don't think I agree with Sado that the Emirates isn't a footballing stadium. I know it's a library and stuff, but the Emirates at its best is 1000% like a proper footballing stadium. I do think it is.
I don't know, mate. For me, when fans complain about the atmosphere at the Emirates, it's not fans maneuver the way they do, right? It is because in terms of bowl situations, for me as a fan, they're not conducive to good football atmosphere. They're just not. So it's not exclusive to the Emirates. Even our ground has that feel sometimes where it's like,
yeah, I agree.
If the stands weren't as steep as they are, you would feel, if you're up in the upper tiers, you feel like you're very, very disconnected from the game. Wembley is like that. Like pretty much everywhere has been like that. But all the big stadiums, Manchester United have the only one that still feels like a football stadium, even though it's ridiculously big.
Nah, I don't even think Man United feels like a football stadium at all. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think Man United is worse. Is worse, if not just as bad as Emirates or some of these other stadiums. Man United is soulless. It's absolutely soulless. It doesn't feel like a football stadium at all to me, at all. And
I just think all of that stuff. all of that stuff about the noise and stuff like that. It's nothing to do with the structure, because I've been to that Lisbon stadium as well, and let me tell you that is probably one of the loudest. I went to Lisbon Derby in that Lisbon stadium, and let me tell you, it's one of the best atmospheres I've ever been to, man. The atmosphere that you get in the ground is always to do with the fans. So, like,
you know the design that you spoke about letting more light in, more natural light in, the gaps between the roof and the top of the stands, that leaks sound. Like, acoustically, that stadium is not built to keep the sound in. Our original stadium design was literally the exact same as man's. It just had a different curvature to the roof. Like, and the company literally changed it for the reason of the acoustics. Like, I don't just speak to speak, you dig me? Like, sound is like my thing. So that's something I took a real interest in when they were building the stadium, is how they were going to contain it.
All I'm saying is when the fans want to be loud at the Emirates, it's loud, and the acoustics don't matter, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So, like, all of this talk about the acoustics, it lets sounds out, etc., is because our fans are shit, not because of anything to do with the stadium. That's the
stadium. When you're in the stadium, it sounds completely different than it does on TV. We can all acknowledge that. There's been times where I've been in the stadium and I've been like, man, it was proper loud. I've seen the replays and it's quiet as a mouse, right? It's a different thing. The acoustics aren't going to tell when you're in the ground. It's about the experience. Like, when you watch it on TV, you can tell the difference. That's all I'm saying, man. Like, you don't have to take offense to that. Like, it's not a dig. It just is what it is. It's science, my guy.
So what do you make of that Ryan Mason performance versus Mourinho's performance?
I mean, like, do you know what? Like, it's the first game. You know, he's barely had a couple of days to train and coach them, whatever. But I mean, there are definitely signs. I mean, in the first half, it looked like the structure was a bit off. We were getting played through quite easily. But the second half, the one thing I did like throughout the game, not just first or second, throughout the game, I did feel like we were starting to put the ball together a bit better in terms of formulating attacks and creating sort of patterns especially in the final third. I feel like with Harry Kane in there as well, when he comes back, that would probably look a bit better, because today it was having to be a bit more fluid with Lucas and Bale and Son across that front three. So I'm kind of happy, man. Like, I didn't think we did too badly. I feel like there's obviously still lots to work on, but again, like, you know, all of a sudden now we're sixth and we're only 2 points behind West Ham and Chelsea, who play each other this weekend. We're obviously not playing this weekend because of the cup final, but then we've got 5 more games after that. So I mean, we're potentially still in that hunt for top 4, but I'm just gonna wait for every game to just come by now at this point, man. Like, I just need to see us not be so negative, man. Not be so negative, especially because the one thing about watching us play, man, is that, like, when we're winning, we do actually look okay. But my problem with Tottenham and the Mourinho's Tottenham is that when we're not winning or when we don't have the ball, we're either, one, we're not keeping compact and structured enough to be able to stop the team from playing, and two, when we do have the ball, we're not keeping it well enough in possession, because I personally believe that we weren't coached well enough to be able to do that. So it was literally one or the other. It was either you score and you go for it, but if you're not scoring, you have to either keep possession and try and make it difficult for them to play against you, or you have to keep a decent structure and keep compact. And we weren't doing either of those. So constantly we were going into games, maybe scoring first, or it was a draw, and teams were coming at us constantly because we just weren't capable of being able to do the things that we should be able to do. And I that's one of the reasons I feel like Mourinho had to go, because it was clear that we weren't being coached to do certain things. Why is the assistant coach shouting every single game press? You can only shout press if you coach your players to press. That means they are not being coached to press.
Mm.
But can I say, man, it's Ryan Mason just going to go from here right now, man. At least, hopefully, we can play with a bit more freedom. You know, maybe not as negative as we have done, and just, you know, at the end of the day, we've got a cup final with, in my opinion, absolutely nothing to lose. We go into the final, we win it, we lose it. I mean, unless we get absolutely battered, there's no harm in losing to Man City. Simple. So there's nothing to lose, and then you've got 5 games now, before now and the end of the season to try and give a decent account of ourselves. I mean, whether we can nick, looking at this table, it's very, very sticky because I think Liverpool is still very much in the mix. I feel like West Ham, although they have a favourable run in, you know, they drop points in like some funny games. And this weekend against Chelsea, the winner of that will basically propel themselves away from the pack that's trying to catch them, you know?
Mm.
But we'll see, man. We'll see, man. I'm just happy that Mourinho's gone, man. I just couldn't do it anymore, man. Couldn't do it, man. Football's moved, man. Football's moved on, man. And unfortunately, you know, 17 years in the game. Fair play to him, man. I can't fault him. The man has made enough money off the severances. Doesn't need to continue flogging this dead horse of his, you know? Like, I just don't see the point why we kept him this long. And I'm reading all different things that we probably could have got rid of him after the Zagreb, because, I mean, arguably, bro, the Zagreb game is enough of a reason for me to look at it and be like, that's enough. We made Zagreb, Dynamo Zagreb, look like prime Barcelona, where we couldn't even score a goal. That night, I just have no idea how we went into that game 2-0 up and knocked ourselves out. And look at us now. We could easily be in the talk of the last 4 of the Europa League like everyone else is. There's no reason why we shouldn't be there, based on everyone that we played and everyone that we came across in that tournament. And somehow we're here. Like, he had to go, man. The remit was a cup and top 4. And it just wasn't looking like it was going to be either of those. And people can say, oh, it's the Carling Cup. But we were looking today, the Carling Cup's only like 100. You only get 100 bags. And no one really talks about it that much. Like, if it's an FA Cup, fine. Or Europa League, fine. But it's the Carling Cup, man. Like, I ain't gonna chat shit to you. I know people might sound mad, might sound snobbish, but I don't give a shit if we win the Carling Cup on Sunday or not, man. I really don't, bro.
Mm. Puts an end to those like trophyless shouts, though.
It definitely does. And you know what? And in part, yes, it does. Absolutely. It definitely, you know, if we can shithouse our way to one, yeah, fine. Give me it, man. Run at me, man. But if we don't, I promise you, bro, I'm not crying about it, man.
Mm.
Like even like okay, compare ourselves to you, man. You man haven't specifically been the best of the last few years. You've had ups and downs, but you've still managed to. You've picked up some FA Cups. You still managed to put in performances at important games that matter, right?
Mm.
And that's what the fans want, right?
Yeah, for real.
I just look at sometimes and I'm just like, yeah, if I look at this team and I can see the way they're playing, they don't care, man. So why should I care? Nah, man, miss me with that. Carling Cup. I mean, if we win it, we win it. If we don't, bro, I promise you, I'm not crying about it, man. Mm. But you man should be all right in the semi-final, no? Just don't lose the fucking.
Well,
just don't lose to Emery, man.
I need us to dunk on Emery.
Yeah,
if we lose that,
honestly, like that was a period in my life as a Tottenham fan where I enjoyed watching Arsenal because I knew you man were gonna flop, man. Emery was a joke, man. He was a proper joke, man, and it was like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Like he was a proper joke, man. So you man, after you kicked racism out of the Europa League, you man need to dunk on them, like completely dunk on them.
I feel like if we don't make the final, then heads need to roll, man. Especially after this Super League shit as well. Like, yeah, I need blood on the streets, man.
Can I ask you? Because obviously they asked about my take on the Super League. What's your take as an Arsenal fan? with, because like we've been catching a lot of strays, but like it's mad because you, man, you've won the league, you've been in Champions League finals, you've been in Europe, you know, you've played in Champions League for a long time, although you've not been in it for a while. Like, what's your take? Because we've been catching a lot of strays, and I feel like on our part, I can kind of get it. But then you, man, actually, you know, you've done stuff. What's your take on how you've been treated, how you've been brought into this conversation? What were you for it? Were you against it?
Like I was saying to Dan earlier, like I get the concept of the Super League. I didn't really mind. I didn't really mind it too much. I'm not a fan of UEFA because I think they personally made a lot of promises that I think have affected us as a football club probably a bit more directly than others, because you know, with our whole stadium thing, I think we gambled on the fact that FFP was going to be a bit more strict than it was. We had a lot of cash to spend, and we chose to sort of wait until, you know, in the anticipation that prices were going to actually fall because of this FFP. So, you know, we had over, I think we had more cash in the bank than every single Premier League team combined. You know, at one point I think it was like £230 million in cash just sitting there. And then obviously once FFP came, and then it wasn't the way that it wasn't implemented in the way that it was promised, then we were sort of left in a lurch kind of thing, because we've got all this cash, but now 250 million doesn't buy you 10 players, it buys you 3 or 4. Do you know what I mean?
Basically the top players,
right?
Anyway. Yeah.
So we've lost all that spending power that we actually had when we were paying off our stadium and all of this stuff, and now we're stuck. So I feel like because of that, it's somewhat right that we were in that conversation. And I think, you know, 24 years in a row, 22 years in a row in the Champions League does buy you some credentials.
Bro, it does, man. You know, all them years that people handed out Wenger, man, it bought you a seat at the table, man.
It buys you some credentials. And I think as well, if you look at our Europa League performances, you know, we made the semi-final, made the final, and then we're in another semi-final. Obviously, the Olympiacos one was a bit of a black mark on that record. But you know, if you look at it, every single year we're in the Champions League. I think bar one, we made it into the knockouts. We only went out in the groups once, I think maybe twice. And then when we're in the Europa League, we're making a semi-final or the final. So, you know, I feel like people, they love to say this, say all this and make all this noise. But in Europe, I think we perform respectively, despite not winning the tournament. I think when you look at clubs like Ajax, clubs like Galatasaray, clubs like Porto, etc., who are there every year, I think it's definitely strange to not try and include these clubs as well, because they have European
heritage.
But I feel Arsenal should be there, man. All of this stuff doesn't really bother me. But then I think as well, on the flip side of that having Arsenal there indefinitely is definitely not the right thing to be doing, because if we carry on the way that we're carrying on, the next 5 years we're not going to be part of Europe's elite, and we definitely deserve to be there.
And people will start saying, "Wait a second, these men don't even deserve to be here." Like, at this point, okay.
And I just think if they'd done a Super League and it was based on your league position, like the Champions League, but the bag was there to be secured, then that suits all parties. I personally, I'm not a fan of UEFA. I don't think they're fit for purpose. I don't think they do their job appropriately, really, in terms of distributing wealth and distributing the capital to the people that earn the capital. So if the clubs are owning the product, they're owning, you know, they're going out to these streaming services and cutting out Sky and all of this stuff, then I'm all for that. But I just don't think that they have a right to say we are the big clubs and we should be here forever, because football doesn't work like that for me, basically. So my whole thing was just against the lack of qualification for it.
Okay. It's fair, man. I mean, I feel like now we're in a bit of a limbo now because obviously it's not happening, or doesn't look like it's happening. But then UEFA have obviously introduced some stuff of their own, which kind of is a bit on the funny side. I'm very interested to see, because now there's going to be a lot more games, there's going to be a lot more coverage, and I'm guessing as well at some point there's going to be a bit more money as well. So be interested to see how it pans moving forward from next season anyway. Like, for all you know, man, you can win the Europa League and you're in it anyway. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. That's what I was saying in the group today. Like, people are saying, "Oh, Arsenal are fried now that the Super League is over." But it's 3 games away from Champions League, man. It's definitely possible.
I was saying this, man. Like, people understand. All of a sudden you've played what? How many good teams have you played, and you're in the semi-final? You're two games away from a final. Like, man, I just feel that we fucked up our situation so badly, man.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Losing to Zagreb and whatnot, that is a Hall of Fame L.
It is, man. Like, and you know what? I could run you so many different things this season that makes me feel like Mourinho, he had to go, brother. Like, it's wild. Like, if you're talking about that, you're talking about some other monumental fuck ups. You're not only talking about that. You're talking about us bottling 2 games against Newcastle. You're talking about Zagreb dunking on us. You're talking about Arsenal dunking on us. You're talking about Dyer, Lamela, Davies, all being first team players that look dead. All-time low XG results. West Ham dunking on us. Like, so many different things. You make me think, for someone who's earning £50 million a year, no, man, it's not suitable. It's not suitable. We can't run. So in many respects, what looked like quite a good season based off all the signings that we made and the money we spent, nah, man, it's gone the other way, man. It's gone the other way now.
Anyways, man, I'm gonna shoot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out, man.
I'll take it easy.
Yeah, brother. In a bit.